America, I'm about to show you something very shocking. And quite frankly, every single one of us Americans is feeling this right now, especially if you have a family. But this video right here will let you know what time we are living in and how bad things have gotten. The cost of living is through the roof. And here's why. Check this out.
All right, I've seen two videos in the last week talking about the same thing, and they're on point, but they're forgetting one big fact, so I'm going to cover this right now. This is what a lot of people don't realize. Almost everybody I know realizes that life is more expensive now, and that all of us are being outpaced by the cost of living. The cost of living has been skyrocketing for the last 20 years at least, and the rate of pay and salaries, basically our compensation has not been keeping up with it, not even close. So all of us know this. Back in 2006, 2007, 2008, we went through that whole thing, and I remember how crazy the inflation felt. And I remember seeing a speech by Ron Paul talking about how it's not really the goods getting more expensive, it's just it takes more of our dollars because our money is becoming less valuable. That is true. All right, now, little fact. Here's a fact you may not know, maybe you do know this. The Great Depression, okay, if you go back to 1930, 1933, that period, it was considered to be economically the worst time in the United States history. It was the time when everybody struggled, people were eating rodents on the street. And if you go and do your math, you figure out that during the Great Depression, 1933 I think was the worst year. If you take what the average income, 25% of the workforce was out of work, the unemployment rate, 25%, pretty high. But the people who were employed, the average income was between $3,000 and $4,000. That's a real number. Now, if you take that number, $3,000 or $4,000, go with whichever number you want, and you adjust that for inflation and cost of living to today's money, and it comes in right around between $88,000 and $93,000. Back in the Great Depression, people were struggling and starving because they were only making $80,000 or $90,000. Like, really let that sink in for a second. So now those two videos that I saw have said that. Okay, and that's a real thing. I get it. One of them said like $3,300, and the other guy said $4,000. But anyway, it's between $3,000 and $4,000. But here's what they forgot to mention. You know what they didn't have in 1933? All of the taxes and fees that have been piled on top of us over all these years, in the last 70 years. You guys know what I'm talking about, okay? We've got thousands of taxes that we're paying now. We've got gas tax, cigarette tax, soda pop tax, you name it. They didn't have that back then. If you just look at statistics, you're going to also find out that they added on income tax and payroll tax. Those are two new giant taxes. The taxes skyrocketed right after the Great Depression, and it compounded by 3 once payroll tax and income tax got added to that. So they basically tripled our tax, and ever since then they've been printing money like crazy, which is making all of our money less valuable, which is causing a bigger problem, okay? So not only would we need $80,000 or $90,000 a year right now in order to match what people were struggling with during the Great Depression, but right now we would probably need double or triple that to make up for all the taxes that we're paying, okay? All right, now it gets even crazier, because if you guys haven't noticed a trend, and I'm going to end on this note, there's a little stupid trick that our government is doing now, and you guys should be aware of it. We should be paying attention to it, and we should be screaming about this. The government has figured out that, okay, taxes are hard. Why? Because no taxation without representation. We have to vote on and approve taxes. You know what we don't have to vote on or approve? Fees. And they have figured out that if they just call something a fee, it's not a tax, and they can just make it up and charge it to us. Stop and think about all of the fees that you're being forced to pay. Now, I'm going to call bullshit on that. A fee is something that is a choice. I don't think that there should be any mandatory fees, because a mandatory fee is a tax. So I'm just going to call bullshit on that. And I think awareness is the first step. I think all of us need to be aware of what's happening, and speaking out against this is going to be the next step. Taking our government to task on this stuff. The transparency needs to be there, and accountability needs to be there. And these politicians that are getting elected that aren't actually doing anything to fix this problem, they need to be held accountable. So I'm going to end on that note for this video.
Whoa, okay. Y'all guys seen that video, right? What you guys think about that? Now, we know the current state of the economy isn't so good, but we also living in a different time, right? Let's close this right quick. We're also living in a different time where it's actually easier to make money nowadays than ever before, right? But that's to the people that can innovate, that's able to do that. That's not a lot of people. Though the information and the access is out there, so there's no excuses for the weak and incompetent. But let's just hear what people have to say, because the people matter. Now, this guy broke down the taxes, and I said, that's crazy. They went from saying, okay, taxes to fees, and fees are taxes. I said, that kind of made sense to me. Put a 1 down in the chat if you didn't think about it like that. Put a 2 in the chat if you're well informed. Now you're able to see. See, because one thing about the mind is this. Once it expands and once it sees something, it will never forget it. It cannot unexpand. It can only go further. It cannot retract. Your mind doesn't retract. And let me know your thoughts about the current states of the economy. What's the grocery prices? What's affecting your pockets? Put a 1 in the chat if it's inflation. Put a 2 in the chat if it's grocery and wages. Put a 3 in the chat if it's debt. Put credit card debt. Put a 4 in the chat if it's just small businesses not growing. These are all things that's affecting the current economy today. Now, we're at war. So one thing I noticed, right, and this is a fact. When oil prices go up, everything goes up. Let me repeat it again and put it in the chat. When oil prices go up, everything goes up. So oil prices went up by 30-40%, which means that everything around it has to go up by 30-40%. And let's not say oil. Let's put it in a bubble. Energy is what's needed for everything to operate. Put a facts down below if that's true to you. Energy is what's needed for you to operate, right? And we can use this just with human body. So if that's the case, if energy is a form, is needed to operate, and the world, the businesses, everything that's used is needed. It needs energy to operate: gas, oil, different combustion system, coal, anything along that nature that produces energy, right? If the energy prices go up, everything goes up. So to me, if we're at war, the energy price is going to go up, which means everything else is going to go up. So people are complaining about the home pricing, where they have where there's a problem, there's a solution. And we all know some solutions, right? You got to go a little bit more through it's a little bit more loops, right? But they got FHA loan for first-time home buyers, though the homes itself cost more than ever before, and the wages are going down. So I understand the complaint, but yet you can make more money than ever before. So to me, it all depends on how you look at this thing. I look at this thing as a great opportunity, right? I look at this thing as a great time to reinvent yourself and try something new, right? I also look at this as it's a great time for innovation. It's a great time for that. So leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about this. And I didn't notice about taxes and fees. So let me know if you gained some type of value within this video. On that note, peace, blessings, and love. And remember, positivity over negativity always. Can we talk about it? I just want to talk about it. Another episode of the Healthy Discussion Show.